But I know exactly why you wrote that for me, in what context. I can even tell a story about how I basically locked you in a harpsichord practice room in Michigan, and you just basically sketched out this piece, and then a week later, I get this piece. Um, but going back to it now, 8 years later, it was a different piece. And I remember all this stuff, and it was all important how you wrote it, what you did, how I might have played it, because I gave the first performance of it. Mm-hmm. And I remembered all that, and I knew all that, and in a way, it didn't matter because I had to like interpret it through who I am now.
Right. It like matters, but it doesn't matter, right?
It matters in that, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask, is there a point where, so it is interesting when we like think about it from that perspective, and obviously this is me and you thinking of a past self, but you could be researching like some other composer that you don't know or have never met, and from a different time. Do you feel like that information actually seeps into your performance in the end, or is it kind of like just a way to almost like have a healthy balance of like procrastination, like a healthy balance that just like kind of separates you a little bit from the notes so that you're not like looking at it myopically, like, you know, when you look at something too close, you can't actually see what it is. This kind of gives you a chance to like healthily step back or healthily procrastinate the myopic focus on the notes themselves, like, or does it actually like get into your performance? Because that, I mean, and who knows what the answer is, but like you're saying, because it's interesting, you're saying two kind of contrasting things, like it's important, I love to know everything I can, but also like it doesn't really matter.
So yes, I wouldn't call it a procrastination. I think what it is what I'm learning when I'm doing all this research is, how does this person communicate, right? Because all music is communication, and how a composer communicates changes century to century, or even country to country, or, you know, town by town, right? So in a way, it's making me learn how that composer communicates. So for example, right now I'm practicing a suite by Gaspard Leroux, who is a 17th century, 18th century, early 18th century French keyboard composer. And they communicate in a very set, standard way, right? And there's very clear, like, primary source evidence of this is how they played it, and then these are the dance forms, right? And these are the phrases of the dance. So it's really important for me to know that, because if I didn't know that and I just approached it as if I were approaching Schumann, well, I think I would lose a lot of the meaning of Gaspard Leroux that you wouldn't just get from the notes. Same thing like when I was practicing your piece, Shi-An Costello. I was going by, you write it, right? It's a very free piece in that it's not measured in any way. And one of the directions is that you let your musicality guide, right? The piece. And I know from knowing you just how much I can stretch that. So very often when I feel like, oh man, this needs to move a little bit, I know your direction to me was, actually, you can just kind of live in that moment longer than you think. And that's important, because that's how you're communicating.
Yeah, was that direction given to you? I actually don't remember. I can't
actually
remember.
I distinctly remember when I was learning For Harpsichord, and I played it for you the first time back in 2014. Mm-hmm. You told me, actually, this could go much slower than you're doing it, right? And for me, that was kind of a surprise going. It just kind of made me think about the piece differently, if that makes sense, right? Totally. I don't have that luxury with Gaspard Leroux, but there's a lot of primary source evidence of how French Baroque people played and thought about music. Mm-hmm. And so And actually, more importantly, thought about dance because this is a dance suite. So I can go that and I know all this information and I use that to kind of organize the notes.
Did LaRue's music, would LaRue's music help you play For Harpsichord, the piece I wrote?
I think in a way, because like I said, For Harpsichord is a very free piece. It's very, there are a couple of measures here and there, but there's not really time signatures, right? You drew a couple of bar lines here and there. And I actually said this the first time that I saw it. It's actually, if not musically related, spiritually related to a 17th century French Baroque unmeasured prelude, where an unmeasured prelude would look like a whole bunch of whole notes to us with lines going over it. It's completely, it looks like a graphic score. But as you filter through it, you see, oh, this is the harmony, and the lines are actually telling you things about the harmony. And then, oh, these notes, even though they look like equal whole notes, are actually kind of like, you know, they sound really cool if you bunch them together so you can play them really fast. But this section actually feels a little bit more expansive. Oh, here's a cadence right there, right? So I'm using all that kind of musical knowledge to interpret a piece that looks like it has no rhythm. And same thing for you. I'm seeing these lines, you wrote some notes, and I know that you were thinking about a phrase. There was a phrase there that's not necessarily 100% readily apparent from how it's notated. And I will try to find that phrase. Whether or not
older music too.
Right? Exactly. And whether or not you actually intended what I thought was a phrase to be a phrase, then that's when it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because it's what's convincing as a performance.
Exactly. Right. You might find something in there that I didn't see.
Yeah.
I didn't really consciously see. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful way to think of it.